Before I get into the reasons why I personally do not enjoy this game, I have to explain why. Break the Targets is a game that is appealing to a very specific niche genre. It's one of, if not the only games that tries to recreate what the Super Smash games created with their Break the Targets mode. There is a strong but small community for this genre, and I imagine there are people who are fans of speedrunning in general who will find this game to be good. However, I am going to be reviewing this game from my own personal perspective. I have never been a hardcore speedrunner, and I haven't spent a lot of time playing the Break the Targets modes in Super Smash. I encourage you to check out the game for yourself and form your own opinions. Overview. Break the Targets has many small issues that add up to a less than ideal experience. You start out learning how to move and jump, which are the most basic mechanics that anyone can figure out. However, they fail to teach you that you have a shield and a rope that you have to use to progress in certain situations. I had to awkwardly go all the way back to the main menu to look at the controls and find out what buttons I had to use for those abilities. The developer agreed with me that this was an issue. They pointed out that it was more clear on the Android version of the game and that it will eventually be improved on the PC version. Most levels have secret paths and areas that are inaccessible from the start of the game. Only once you progress far enough into the game will you have the abilities needed to reach those secret areas. I don't find myself particularly excited by this idea, as most of the early levels are very dull and I don't find it fun to be continually replaying them. This is intentional as the levels are supposed to get more complex over time, and you are supposed to be encouraged to replay early levels to incrementally improve your times. I would prefer if there were more options for the player to progress here, rather than being forced to replay these earlier levels. In the gameplay videos shown on Steam, they only show off segments of gameplay where the character has unlocked all of their abilities and is flying around the course shooting lasers and doing everything super fast. In the actual gameplay, I have to get through several hours of progression to be able to do that as well. The developer has said that many players have been able to progress through earning all of those abilities in under an hour. However, if you're a more casual player in this genre like myself, it can feel pretty bad having to deal with only the basic abilities to run and jump for such a long period of time. Every match also rewards me with these gold coins, and I was looking through several different menus trying to figure out what I was supposed to use them for, and it turns out that they are replay tokens. They'll let me unlock replays from the developer or other players to let me watch how they completed each level. This can be useful if you need help finding routes to improve your times. Recently, there have also been other uses added for these coins, such as the ability to unlock some of the modes with them. This is a very welcome change as it allows the player to eventually try some new modes just by casually playing the game. It's also really obvious that this game was designed with mobile in mind, with a lot of very large and intrusive UI to make it easier to see on a smaller screen. I also find it annoying that many parts of the UI are slanted in a manner that appears odd on a monitor, but I'm sure would look fine on a mobile screen. My biggest issue with the game is the lack of choice and making the player believe that they do have choices. It's frustrating to learn when you finally unlock that new dash ability that you are only able to use it a set number of times in the match. So you can't just use this ability to shred as much time as you can off your previous times, you're pretty much forced to use it in very particular spots to progress through levels, and are unable to use it creatively. This feels completely against the spirit of what games should be. I feel like I should have a choice, and I'm doing something cool when I use my abilities. I shouldn't feel like I'm just playing the level in the exact same manner as every other person that's ever played the level. The developer disagrees with me on this point. They said that in the beta version of the game, you were originally able to spam these abilities to your heart's content. He changed this to be more restrictive as he wanted players to put more strategy into how they use it rather than just spamming. However, I believe this largely has the adverse effect because of how intense that restriction is. As it stands, you're usually only able to use the dash ability 2 or 3 times on most levels. On a lot of the later levels, there are gaps or targets placed in a way that you realistically are forced to use the dash in those particular places, meaning that you end up with no dashes left to use creatively. I really think there needs to be some sort of middle ground reached here. Maybe some cooldown based system. The abilities are fun to use, but it makes it feel very unsatisfying when you can really only use them the way the developer forces you to. Gameplay. The pacing of the game is slow, and it fails to teach the player vital mechanics. There is a massive amount of content in the game, hundreds of levels, several different game modes, plus a level creator for the community to share their own crazy ideas. But keep in mind, to even try the vast majority of the different modes and levels, you'll have to invest a lot of time in unlocking them. And because of the nature of the speedrunning genre, a very large portion of your time spent in the game will be replaying the same levels over and over, possibly for hours or days to try and get that perfect time. I can understand how some people enjoy this type of leaderboard competition, however it's not something that keeps me entertained. User interface and controls. The UI and controls are very obviously designed for mobile. They have been poorly translated to PC and can get rather intrusive sometimes. Most typical hotkeys you would use for navigating through menus in a PC game won't work here. If you're playing on mouse and keyboard, you'll likely have to rebind most of your controls as well. There are also still many parts of the game that have yet to be translated from mobile. Such as the walls of some levels, you can see pictures of how you should control your character using a touchscreen. I've also gotten pop-ups before to rate the game on the Play Store, which is Google's App Store. Plus, there are some strangely organized menus, such as the question mark icon at the bottom right of the main menu, linking to the game's credits, but the question mark icon on the list of levels showing you the time tier list. Graphics. Graphics are pretty lackluster as all of the art in the game are silhouettes moving around. The animations look fine, but they're not particularly satisfying. The frame rate is locked to 60, which is fair for this type of game. There are no graphic options, just a slider for visual effects intensity, and a checkbox for launching the game in full screen. Audio. The music is typical, noisy, 8-bit style music. Some tracks seem alright, but others are very repetitive and loud. No issues with the sound effects, nothing special but not too annoying. Sound effects and music volume can both be adjusted individually in-game. Final thoughts. Break the Targets is a mobile port coming out at $4.99 US dollars. It's attempting to bring back the magic that was in Super Smash Bros. Melee. At the time of originally writing this, it was being sold for $7.99, but they have since lowered it to $4.99. It should be noted as well that the game is completely free on the Google Play Store, with the monetization being from ads and microtransactions. Break the Targets is a fun idea, but it's missing a lot of vital components that would make it a game that I would find myself playing again. If you're a fan of min-maxing a speedrunning platformer game, then this game is worth looking into, as it's a genre that doesn't get a ton of attention. However, I would have much preferred if the game had some additional depth to it rather than being solely focused on being a speedrunning game. This will be a positive or a negative depending on your preference, but I know many other titles that are able to both be a good game on its own and a good game for speedrunning.